Hey, everybody. It's Jim. It's Matt. It is Tuesday. Matthew, after 2.5 years of attempting to get a deal done with the state of Missouri, it looks like the Kansas City Chiefs are headed to Kansas.
Mm-hmm. It's something that I recall being brought up a while ago.
Mm-hmm.
Probably at this point about a year ago, the potential move out of Kansas or out of Missouri,
Mm-hmm.
for the Chiefs, and it's one of those things that feels like you dismiss it until it actually happens in terms of
Mm-hmm.
teams relocation. Like I know the Bears are talking about it now, where they're talking about potentially relocating.
Mm-hmm.
If they're not able to get a deal done, they're kind of going hat in hand, asking for a handout to the city of Chicago.
Right.
Um, but yeah, it's an interesting move that now is going to take. It's going to be interesting because the Royals and the Chiefs kind of share almost a complex type area.
Well, they do. It's called the Harry S. Truman Sports Complex, and on one side of it is the Kansas City Royal Stadium, which is Kauffman Stadium. And then at the other end is Arrowhead. So, it literally is on one big, big, big plot of land.
Yeah, yeah, I've seen the pictures. They're right next to each other. I now wonder what that looks like with that stadium empty.
Well, I think it all boils down to what does Kansas City want to do. Now, some people, this is going to sound stupid. I apologize if I offend anybody. But there are a lot of people that didn't know that Kansas City wasn't in Kansas. Well, there is a Kansas City, Kansas. There's also a Kansas City, Missouri. Kansas City, Kansas is not where the team's moving. It's moving across the river, approximately 23 miles away from where Arrowhead is, located. Um, the Chargers, the Chiefs draw from 6 states, which obviously Kansas, Missouri, um, Nebraska, Iowa, Arkansas. So they have a pretty large fan base of people who drive to Kansas City. Great tailgating area there, and they're basically working toward getting the deal done after they've exhausted every possible way of doing it. I mean, the Hunt family, and we can talk about Lamar later, but the Hunt family has been very loyal to Kansas City. I mean, uh, Lamar Hunt, when he started the Chiefs, they originally were the Dallas Texans in 1960. Founding member of the American Football League, and they didn't have a very good first year in Dallas, so he moved the team to Kansas City, and he built a tremendous following and spent a great deal of money developing that franchise in Kansas City. And it will be different. Arrowhead is a very unique and very interesting place to play. It's very loud. It's it's out from town, so it's not in the city of Kansas City, Missouri. It's about I don't know, maybe a 20-minute ride out there. From a television standpoint, the trucks are parked actually way outside the stadium, more than probably most stadiums that we've dealt with in there. So you're kind of almost in the parking lot. So you're quite a distance away from the stadium itself. But all that being said, Kansas City Arrowhead has been something that everybody's known about, and it's a hostile place for those coming in from Denver. Everybody's cool. Denver, you got problems, but it'll be interesting. They're moving 23 miles over to what we now you see as a trend, and that is where they're building these little, like you guys know in Atlanta, these little
Hmm.
villages around the stadiums. And it's just basically a $4 billion deal. Tell you what, I got a video, which my friends at Fox 4 out in Kansas City allowed me to use. I'm going to play it for us, and we'll catch it up on the other side.
Now, this isn't something that everyone is celebrating today, particularly fans who call Missouri home.
The Chief Kingdom fans who've built memories for a lifetime at Arrowhead Stadium among them. That's where we find Fox 4's Malik Jackson. Malik, in 5 years, the $43 million stadium, when it was built, will give way to an up to $3 billion dome.
And John, it will be this eerily quiet then as well. We understand today's not a game day, so there's no fans out here. The tailgating isn't happening, but the morning in Missouri certainly is. And as you guys have just mentioned, as I just said, in about 5 short years, this quiet will be the norm here at Arrowhead.
I don't want them to go to Kansas. I want them right here in Missouri.
So what's your message to the team now that they're going?
I think you're making a big mistake. You need to reconsider.
It may be too late for leaders to reconsider, as Wilson suggests, but it's exactly the right time for folks here to voice their frustration. You think they're going to lose fans?
Yes, absolutely.
Well, I don't like it at all. They'll probably lose me as a fan.
The move down I-70 not welcome here in Jackson County, partly because of the history. It was 1963 when the Chiefs picked Missouri as their new home, and in 1972, so more than 50 years ago, they settled down here at Arrowhead. But that future shifted in April of 2024 when Jackson County voters rejected a sales tax extension that would have helped fund stadium upgrades. That failed vote cracked the door open, and Kansas, as of today, walked through it.
I'm not happy about that. They've been the Kansas City Chiefs since before I was born.
Again, my preference is they stay here. I don't care where they're playing at.
As long as they're in the region.
Exactly.
And we tried to end there with a little bit of optimism for those of you in Chiefs Kingdom that are home and upset with this news. We do know that they will just be right down the road. And I'm sure the great memories that we have all created here at Arrowhead Stadium, we can transfer those to the stadium in KCK. Bria.
Hey, Malik, before you go, what are elected officials in Missouri saying about this big move from the Chiefs?
They've had a lot to say up to this point, but today we've had a hard time tracking them down. We have heard back from a few at this hour. One of them compared this to this cross rivalry between Kansas and Missouri, saying that it is alive and well, as Dave just mentioned a few moments ago, but also understood the point that this is a big move, and he believed that it was undermining a fan base and that Kansas was taking a big political risk, one that is not just with the fans, but the idea of these star bonds. We know that star bonds have not always been successful, so it is a risk, but one that Kansas, of course, today says that they're willing to take. And this same source compared it to 52 years of marital bliss, and then Clark Hunt today coming in and blindsiding Missouri. I'm not sure Mr. Hunt would think it was all 52 years of bliss, especially with the last 2 years, but nevertheless, Missouri leaders and this fan base in Jackson County certainly does feel blindsided. Back to you guys.
Malik Jackson live.
There you go. Thanks to our buddies at Fox 4 in Kansas City for allowing us to use their news video. Again, visit their website. It's video was courtesy of our buddies at Fox 4 out in Kansas City. I mean, I can see where Kansas City fans are upset, but, you know, frankly, isn't that about the same distance from downtown Atlanta to where Cobb County and the stadium is out in Atlanta?
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much the difference of the Braves moving from Turner Field to their current complex in the Battery, which is on the northern side of Atlanta, really more in the suburbs in Cobb County. In fact, it might be farther, especially, you know, with the Atlanta traffic.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting that's what, you know, that's what's going to drive fans away. I wouldn't really get the ups. Like, I don't really understand why they're upset. at least from those people's perspectives, because you would assume that they would have needed some form of taxpayer funding, which, if I recall correctly, was what the Hunt family was looking for in order
Yeah.
to stay in Kansas City. They didn't get it. Now they're moving. So no, I don't get. I mean, yeah, they cross a border, but it's not like they're moving, 100 miles away or something like that.
It's I think it's two things. One, there is a tremendous amount of passion for the Kansas City Chiefs in Missouri. There's a very, very hot debate between things that happen in Kansas and things that happen in Missouri. I mean, the Jayhawks and the Missouri Tigers have been battlers, and rivals for many, many years. So it's basically, they're not moving distance. I don't think that's the key. I think the key is the people are upset that Missouri lost the football team. Missouri's lost 2 football teams now. They lost the Cardinals in St. Louis, and now they've lost the Chiefs in Kansas City. And when the Chiefs do finish, which I guess will be about 4 or 5 years from now, and end up over there, that'll be the first time since the 1940s that the state of Missouri hasn't had a football team.
Yeah. Interesting. I did see something today where somebody was, I guess, poking fun at an LA person, their sticker, and they were in the city of Los Angeles and they're rooting for the 49ers. Somebody was like, man, like, why are they rooting for the 49ers? These teams are in town. The Chargers were in San Diego and the Rams were in St. Louis for a long time. So the Rams especially aren't a hometown team to the state of California. At least really for people, more my age and probably anybody. I mean, they weren't in Los Angeles for a very long time before they made the move back. And
yeah, it's surprisingly, a generation of fans are more Raiders fans than they are either. I mean, the Chargers even shouldn't be there. There's just that was a joke. There's the Spanos family screwed that up so bad it's ridiculous. In how that could have been. There were numerous opportunities for San Diego and Spanos to build something in down there in San Diego, and for the Chargers to have left, it was just that was just nothing but greed that the Spanos family did to move that team up there. The original idea was was actually the Chargers and the Raiders together, but that was in another part of of Los Angeles County. And when the league said, "Wait a minute, we want to get in on this," and the Rams want to come back, how about the Raiders and the Rams? Well, because that way they'd have an NFC and an AFC team. And the Raiders said, "Wait a minute, no, because we're going to be second fiddle to the Rams, and we got a bigger following than the Rams do." It might be interesting for folks to know that the Raiders broadcast both on radio and their preseason television games are aired in Los Angeles still, and have been for years. So, once they left LA and went back to Oakland, now they're in Vegas. They never lost that fan base in Los Angeles.
yeah, I mean we can, maybe this will sound rough, but they do have a large Hispanic following, and that is prominent throughout the state of California. And for whatever reason that is, I don't know. But yeah, especially in LA, there's a predominant Hispanic community in LA. So that would make sense with the following that they have and where it is. And I don't understand I know the financial aspects behind doing it, but it does always, like, it makes me curious when teams move in such a way. Like when the Rams moved out of St. Louis, they weren't really leaving. Like, they left a decent sized fan base, but they weren't leaving like a large contingent of fans. It felt like a move in Oakland where you're leaving a strong contingent of fans to go somewhere where you really don't have anything. And you've seen that partially in the way their stadium has looked at times, throughout their time being in Vegas. And the same can be said for the Rams in LA as well, where that stadium has just been taken over at times.
Yeah, more so though the Chiefs. I mean, not the Chiefs, Chargers. LA had a good, solid relationship with the Rams. The Rams, Georgia Frontiere, when she got angry because she wanted a new building. If you remember, the Rams' final few seasons anyway, was played down in Anaheim. They played the games at the old, at the Big A, where the Angels played. And then, they moved to St. Louis. Stan Kroenke bought them with the idea, frankly, always the idea of moving them back to Los Angeles. And eventually Stan did, and Stan put together a group of investors that built what is now SoFi Stadium and that whole SoFi complex out there. And so, St. Louis not only lost the Cardinals to Arizona, they lost, the Rams to go back to Los Angeles. So it's been a little bit of a slow ride, but LA's back on the bandwagon with the Rams. But there's not been any traction at all with regard to the Chargers. And there were some people thought, well, 90 miles up the road from San Diego was Los Angeles, so maybe the Charger fans will make that trip. But because the water was spoiled so badly between Spanos and the community and the fans, the Charger fans have not made an overwhelming effort to get up to SoFi to watch the Chargers play, which is why a lot of times you'll see when the Steelers played out there, you thought you were playing in Avisher Stadium. It was just a totally different situation for them. So yeah, it's been taken over. The deal in Kansas is a 60-40 split. 60% of the money is being put up by the state. 40% of the money is being put up by the team. The team will eventually pay back, some of the bonds, and it'll end up be closer to a 50-50 split than what than the 60-40 to begin with.
Yeah, and that's where these deals are made and lost is in that taxpayer split for a lot of these teams, unless the owners are for some reason willing to just kind of foot the bill on their own.
That was the Kroenke deal. Kroenke had the money to put that deal together out there, and a lot of that, Matt, and it. The thing began ironically in San Diego with the community area, where you have a stadium where you've also got retail buildings. You've got much like at the Battery, right? I mean, it's there people can live there. There's people who work there. There's people who come down for the restaurants. So it's a year-round atmosphere that you can create out there. So there's multiple revenue streams. And this is what the Chiefs have been looking at for years in Kansas City, is to try to create, what can we do to create better revenue sources to enhance the team. And so the city of Kansas City and the state of Missouri were hesitant at times to what they thought, and frankly, to be honest, I'm quite certain that if you went out there to Missouri and sat down with the political masterminds of the state and the city, they never thought that they would move to Kansas. I'm absolutely certain that was what they were. It's like, okay, it's a bluff. They're not going until they did. And when you're only moving 23 miles away, I don't think they're losing. Will they lose fans? Maybe, but not a lot, and they'll make up more for what they did. So I don't see. I don't just think that this is earth shattering. Sad to some Kansas City, diehards, I'm sure, but as is the case in sports, unfortunately, business is business, and the Kansas City Chiefs felt that the business that they wanted was best served in the state of Kansas.
Mm-hmm. I do have something because I saw somebody pointed out on X or Twitter today. When somebody's got to get a different architect in the room. All of these new stadium concepts and designs that they're coming up with, they all look the same. Like, yeah, there's like small little unique features about certain ones. But man, they're just hitting copy and paste on the same dome with the same lights. And you need some originality in the stadium design. Otherwise, there's nothing unique that probably feels like let me rephrase that. You're going to get to a point to where the uniqueness is gone from this stadium design. Really like the one that's sitting right here behind us. Because it kind of started with Mercedes-Benz here in Atlanta. I think SoFi is the one that really is the embodiment of what people are doing now, that canopy style stadium.
Yeah.
Which I think is what they're doing in Buffalo. I think is what's proposed in Chicago as well. I don't know about Kansas City's stadium.
Well, Kansas City, they don't even have a rendering yet.
Okay. But yeah, like these stadium designs, Vegas is they're a full dome. But they all look the same.
The thing with SoFi, when you walk into it, it's kind of interesting. It's a dome, okay, and we see up there where you can see through the glass windows. It doesn't snow much in Southern California, so you can get away with the glass windows. So
it never rains.
It's it never rains in Southern California until now. But the thing that's kind of funny here is that it's technically a dome, but it's really not. It's kind of like they covered over the stadium because it kind of hangs out there, and you can still have the fresh air from coming in. Buffalo is more like Miami's Hard Rock, where the fans are somewhat protected by by an awning of sorts. If you look at the Hard Rock from the roof, you'll see how that's kind of like it's still open air, but there's there's a protection of the fans from potential of rain in the Miami area. You're still going to get wet, but not as wet. The situation with the Cleveland Stadium and the proposed Chicago Stadium and this Kansas City Stadium are pure domes. Same with Washington, with that stadium, which is kind of unique. There's some interesting pieces, and there's a lot of wood in the Washington Stadium, which I thought was kind of interesting. But you're right. There's a lot of copy and paste stuff. The Browns' new building, which they will be going into in Berea, which is basically kind of like what we're talking about with Atlanta and Cobb County out there. It's a suburb. It's not far away, but we're getting to these villages that are being built as opposed to the old, put the stadium downtown or put the stadium somewhere where, in the case of Arrowhead, it was out by the interstate where people could come from, as I said, 6 different states to come and enjoy football in Kansas City. Outstanding tailgating out there. Hope that doesn't change. But You know what? I think that the thing for Kansas City and kind of part of the charm of the Kansas City experience at Arrowhead was the fact that it was outside and it was loud.
Mhm.
And you saw that fans didn't care about the fact that it might be 12 degrees, or 7 degrees or whatever. They showed up just like the Buffalo fans show up. You might be losing your advantage. I know for a fact in Minnesota, in Detroit. I mean, yeah, do you want the dome's going to give you protection from snow and the cold, and that's a good thing, but it takes away any advantage you have. I mean,
Yeah.
I know when Tampa Bay used to play up in the you know in the division, when we used to go up and play Detroit and Green Bay and Minnesota, every one of those stadiums were outside, and I can guarantee you. Well, wait, the yeah, I think it was because that was it might have been before the Pontiac Silverdome, but anyway, it was not pleasant. I can tell you, going to Chicago and going to Minnesota and going to Green Bay and Detroit all in the wintertime was not fun,
Mhm.
and there was a definite advantage.
Yeah, it is a certain aspect of, and I've heard players talk about,
Mhm.
trips to Kansas City, how it feels the most college like.
Yeah,
Um,
it's a good point.
yeah, it feels the most college like. So there is a definite aspect of what will they be sacrificing in making this move? Like, are they going to sacrifice that atmosphere? Not even from a weather standpoint, but just from a fan standpoint alone.
Mhm. Right.
You can't really. You would assume that them moving doesn't, change the way people feel about the team, or at least not all of them, unless they live in Kansas City, like some of those people in the news
Mhm. The clip.
clip that you played.
Mhm.
But you wonder what effect it'll have on their overall environment, because it has been something that's very real, and it was something that was talked about in a very real way through these years when Kansas City's been running through the AFC. It's
Mhm.
Yeah, they're running through it, but they're getting the 1 seed and they're playing these games at home, and that's
Mhm.
such a big advantage for them,
Mhm.
and it has been. And so now will they give that up in their move? I don't know. And also an interesting note, because you're talking about the LA stadium and the canopy design
Mhm.
that it is. Um, so back in 2022, really New Year, right
Mhm.
after New Year in 2023, Georgia was playing in the national title out there in SoFi.
Mhm.
SoFi is still relatively new at that point in time,
Yeah.
and apparently most of the people in the state of Georgia that were going out there for the game believed it to be a dome, like
Mhm.
they had in Atlanta, and they're going out to California, so they're not dressing heavy or
They
expecting
didn't
any kind
dress
of
for it. Yeah.
like that. And there was people in the top section of it
Mhm.
because of the canopy design. The
Yeah.
way the wind was blowing that night, there was also rain, so there was people in the top sections of that stadium that got soaked that
Yeah.
night because of the wind and the rain that came through. So these stadiums are protected, but they're not 100% protected by any measure.
No, and that's where SoFi is unique. Um, it won't be unique to the new stadiums, the ones like I said, Buffalo's building, with the choosing not to put the dome there. From that standpoint, but no, it's an open air. It's a concept, which, by the way, frankly, that was when Clark. They just mentioned, Clark Hunt, who's the president of the Chiefs, the third generation of the Hunt family. That was what he had suggested, was that they don't tear down Arrowhead. They just put together, a renovation that put together a canopy over it, much like
Mhm.
SoFi. He thought that would be, better for better for the fans. And, at the end of the day, what these guys want, and look, I am totally against public funding for NFL football stadiums. Um, you know, it just doesn't. It's not cost effective, right? because you're only gonna play, if you're lucky, 10 games in that stadium a year. So you have to figure out what else you're going to do with it. If it's an open air stadium, there's not a whole lot you can do with it. You can have concerts, maybe, yeah, sure. But the dome stadiums become much more valuable because that they can then again hold concerts. They can have Final Fours. They can have a number of different events that they wouldn't be able to do outside.
Mhm.
So I get that part of it. Obviously, the Super Bowl situation, the NFL's most of the time rewards people who do stadium renovation and give them a Super Bowl. And I would imagine such would be the case in Kansas City and in Cleveland and other places. But it's the Hunt family. I find it hard to argue with the Hunt family because honestly, they have been very true to Kansas City for a very long time, and their ask was to the state of Missouri wasn't that outrageous or out of line. Frankly, when you put it up against other stadiums and other owners, it wasn't. It was a pretty reasonable ask. The state of Kansas, though, presented them with a ridiculously, beneficial to them deal, which they could have had 2 years ago. But they've spent 2 years trying to figure out a way to get it done in Missouri, and it didn't happen. So that puts the Royals on the clock. I don't think the Royals are going to Kansas, but it does give them a advantage because if I don't think the state of Missouri wants to lose a baseball team.
Yeah. Speaking of deals that have been in the works for 2 years and really got right towards the goal line in the middle of this season, USC and Notre Dame will no longer be playing their rivalry.
Right.
And as many people have proposed, a big factor in this has to do with the deal that Notre Dame has to get in the playoff. Part of it has to do with USC kind of ducking the smoke. They didn't really want to play Notre Dame late in the season. And the reasoning they gave was due to the way the College Football Playoff Committee has judged teams based on late losses in recent memory. I think both sides I think there's reason for USC to do it, but I think the reasoning that got reported and is reporting of them wanting to not be essentially not play that tough game late in the year, terrible look for the university. And I'm gonna toss a little extra on top of that. Lincoln Riley has long since been it was very widely talked about the reason he jumped from Oklahoma to USC in this belief that he felt like he would have a better chance to compete at a higher level and a better chance to win, not in the SEC. And that really only them not getting this deal done and the reasoning that's been reported really only furthers those claims that Lincoln Riley and his USC teams that they don't really want to play that hard of a schedule.
Well, I mean, I've got a number of friends out in Los Angeles, some in the time work for the Times and others. I'm not going to blame this on USC wholly. Notre Dame hid from USC that they were making a deal with the CFP. They didn't make that announcement to USC. Basically giving them a guarantee if they finished in that 12 spot, right? So, all right, I'm USC, and this is not Lincoln. I can assure you, Lincoln Riley has absolutely nothing to do with this. These are decisions made way above what Lincoln Riley, and I'll tell you why. The Notre Dame USC rivalry's gone on for 93 years. It is a good rivalry for both college football and specifically payday wise for both Notre Dame and USC. I think what happened here was, as you said, Notre Dame gets that. No one else it's not Georgia. Georgia's in the Southeastern Conference, but Georgia doesn't get a guaranteed spot in the college football playoff if they finish in 12 places in the top 12 places. It's just not. It's a non-conference team getting a benefit that all the conference teams don't. And I know for years they had talked about moving the USC game and Notre Dame game to week 0, in large part because it would create a tremendous amount of buzz for both teams. They get that early game window where they would be the only only football game on. Maybe a Saturday night or a Monday night or whatever. So there's this week 0 thing has been percolating now for a few years. So it's more of a there's anger from SC again at the AD and up level that they've been working with Notre Dame for 93 years, yet Pete Bavacqua didn't pick up the phone and call him and tell him, hey, look, we're making a deal with the CFP and it may affect how we play. Notre Dame, by the way, and I'm not breaking any news here. Notre Dame replaced USC with BYU.
Yeah. That's not a one-to-one move.
No.
It's definitely, based on some of the replacements they probably could have gotten, it's not bad. But I would have questions about BYU's ability to build a consistent winner the same way that USC could provide for them. Yeah,
I think that, it's just another case of where greed and arrogance, to some extent to both sides, basically has cost us one of our most enjoyable rivalries.
Yeah, it's a really good game. It's a shame that we lose it, but it's just more of the same in college football and the way things have gone. Is these rivalries, they get lost. I mean, they get lost in the conference shuffle. They get lost in the business of things in this one. And it is partially. I think I would struggle to say split blame because I don't think it's split blame. I think a lot of this falls on USC, but Notre Dame's not completely free of charge in this either. But there's just so much because you lost Bedlam when you did the conference realignment. You're losing the Apple Cup, the civil war between Oregon and Oregon State, unless those teams continue to figure ways out to keep playing those out. Like these are rivalries and matchups that you're going to continue to lose. It maybe the Civil War doesn't mean a lot to me and you because coming from Florida and Georgia and the East Coast and stuff like that, but it probably means a lot to the people out in Oregon. It probably means a lot to the people in Washington to play the Apple Cup every year.
Right. Yeah, sure.
And these games, I know it means a lot to the people of Oklahoma. Bedlam does. Yeah. And so these are games that you lose in this shuffle that continue to it's impossible to tear apart the fabric that has created college football. But at some point when you keep pulling at it, you're going to be left with a tattered rag of what used to be.
Okay, but let me throw something out here. Let's it's not like these games couldn't be played, okay? I would suggest that the USC model or concept, let's play the rivalry games in week 0.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean
The
that's
reason why you can't, because you're scheduling our sisters of the poor anyway.
mhm.
So replace that with a meaningful game, a rivalry game. Pitt and West Virginia, backyard brawl. Go ahead and do it then. Do the,
Mhm.
do Oklahoma, Oregon State, Washington State. Do it then. It's
Mhm.
the early part of the season. If you lose that game, we all know the whole routine of, you don't want to get nailed at the end. You want to get nailed at the beginning.
Mhm.
You know, I don't see why that. I mean, some of these week zero games are just absolutely jokes.
Yeah.
You could have the holy war between BYU and Utah at the beginning of the season.
Mhm.
So even some of the conference rivals, I wouldn't say Florida State. I mean, sorry, well, you could say that Florida and Georgia, you play that when you play it. But
Mhm.
some of these other rivalries that, because of conference changes, because of different scheduling issues, have become a problem. That's not a problem if you make it a week zero. And to me, week zero, which is normally not a very entertaining weekend, there's a couple games here or there, but some of these games are meaningless. I think you would have a lot of fun knowing each year that you're going to play that game to kick the year off. I think that would be a hell of a kickoff for the week zero games.
Yeah, and as college football continues to evolve and this playoff continues to expand, which it always was going to when you started the chain of expansion here.
Sure.
But as the playoff continues to expand and continues to get larger, you run out of excuses if you're these athletic directors to not play these games, to not maybe adopt this week zero model where you're working on rivalries or bowl games or something like that to really start your season off, because you have more leeway now. What you've done is, when you continue to expand this, you're diluting the regular season. If you're going to dilute the regular season, then give me more games that are worth watching. It's not something that I love. It's not a model that I love. But if you're going to do it, there's a right way to do it. And that right way is figuring out these rivalries and figuring out these bowls and finding this stuff out. I'm not sitting at the head because I don't know what the heck I'm talking about in terms of the logistics of this stuff, but these guys do. And it's going to be their job, and it's going to fall on them to figure this out, because they're the ones that wanted this expansion. And it's not like these games being played on week zero is costing them money. It's going to be bringing money into the university. So they'll have a lot to gain from it, but they just seem, I don't know, uninspired, unmotivated to do so for whatever reason that may be.
Here's the other parts of the week zero deal, right? The money that ESPN and some of these other networks are not getting, because believe me, after this year, the bowl people are going to get real tight about what we're going to sponsor and what we're not going to sponsor, because they've been pillaged by 200 and some odd players choosing not to play. So they're not getting the quality of teams that they signed up for and that they're paying for. But the joy of these rivalries, right, that you're talking about, like Bedlam, and like we talked about the backyard brawl, and we talked about the the Holy War, and SC and Notre Dame's an outlier in this case. Those are regional. I mean, it's not like you're talking cross country. Those are regional rivalries. And to me, if I could get to see, let's say Pitt and West Virginia, okay, just picking that up. They're 70 miles from each other. Okay. So, if, I'm going to get jazzed for the opening of football season, because I get to see that rivalry again. And it's for the first time, in a while, it's such a cool thing that I don't have to worry about now that logistically, if you're in the Big Ten, You got to fly cross country to watch some of the games that you may want to watch. Here you get to drive someplace.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think this would be something that it's so much has been taken away from fans because we all like the regional. SEC is the only one that stayed relatively tight to the footprint, right?
Yeah.
Everybody else is scattered all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
You're screwing the fans. Okay, let's be fair about this. You have not taken the fans or the students or anybody into other than the athletic department into this deal.
Mm-hmm.
Because, the fans do not. You're asking the fans to travel cross country to watch football games of their teams. I mean, come on, that's ridiculously difficult for the most average person, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you could repay the fans by giving them a week 0 where you have meaningful in maybe it may not mean something between Kansas and Missouri from a standpoint of, a national championship run. But what it does mean is you can go and you're giving back to the fans what you took away from them, which is the regionality of the original way conferences were put together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think what is confusing to me is that the entertainment value that a lot of these rivalries can bring is such a marketable product for a lot of these for the television networks. Like the ESPN, I think, has benefited greatly from the past couple of years of having the backyard brawl back on. It's, if I remember correctly, I think it's going to take a break again until somewhere in the neighborhood of like 2029 or 2030.
Yeah, 2030.
And so it'll be missed, but like it's been a really good game. Like West Virginia this year won a game against Pitt that they had no business winning.
Like
yeah. There's aspects of this, like the Kansas and Missouri game this year was fantastic in terms of a product that they put on. And it's not because these guys were they were both ranked in the top 10, giving us a marquee matchup. No, it's just because it's a rivalry that has been renewed. And when you have rivalries, it is a fantastic product. It's something that the NFL lacks. It's something that really the NBA lacks. And for the most part, I mean, baseball has a couple, but they lack that aspect as well. There is nothing else in professional sports like college rivalries. And so when you take them away, you're taking something that is an extremely valuable and marketable product, really off the screens.
Yeah. And the other thing too, with the week 0 type thing, because at that point ESPN doesn't have everything nailed down, you would have cross promotional deals where NBC would have one of the games or 2 of the games, CBS would have them, Fox would have them. So you've got opportunities there to have multiple networks carry these games along with ESPN, so that you could work out a deal where you could start on a Friday night and end on a Monday night and see games all the way through, which could include Sunday because the NFL's not playing at that point in time.
Yeah, and I'm curious as to, and I'm sure they have to a certain extent, but I'm curious why like TV networks and executives don't like try to encourage these rivalries, or maybe step in and try to help schedule these rivalries more. And you'll know about this better than I do. But I mean, all things considered, like you would need somebody that can literally sell ice to somebody living in an igloo in order to be able to get me to watch like the Titans and the Cardinals this season in the NFL. But man, when you take like Montana and Montana State, they're FCS football teams. I'd rather watch that than the Cardinals and the Titans. I would. It's a better game. It's more intense. You feel the passion. There's a certain aspect that really kind of comes through the screen that you lack in the NFL and that you lack in the NBA and these other professional leagues. that you don't lack in college sports, and yet I feel like it's not marketed well enough right now.
I think part of it is that from a television standpoint, there's an assumption that that all the NFL games are, worthy of watching, and I think that's where they missed the boat. I mean, we were talking about the backyard brawl. I guarantee you that most of the country would watch that versus the Cardinals and the we'll say the Cardinals and the Indianapolis Colts. I mean, I have no interest in the Cardinals and the Indianapolis Colts. I don't care what the hell happens in that.
I mean, to be honest with you, the Colts and the 49ers played last night, and I didn't really care.
I didn't watch it.
Yeah, it didn't matter to me. Philip Rivers had a good day. I couldn't have cared less. And I mean, that's a storyline right there. Philip Rivers is playing. And not only that, he played a fantastic first half. I saw it coming across my timeline. I still didn't care to turn the game on. So it's something that I just don't understand, at least from the marketing standpoint, because it feels like they have these little nuanced aspects, but instead they just like to paint college football with this nice broad stroke every time they do it.
Yeah. And the thing is, all of the networks we're talking about all have relationships with college football.
Yeah, Fox, CBS, ESPN, all of them.
Yeah.
TNT.
Yeah. They all have relationships with it. Amazon has tried to have relationships with it, but that's not going to be that. They're not going to hold that out for a long time. So there's that. Real quick, we want to mention, of course, our buddies at Zach Bobo Realty, 770-876-2790. Check our little ticker at the bottom there. Zach is a friend of the program, and we encourage you to pick up that phone whenever you want to buy a new house in the Southeast, in Georgia and Florida, anywhere in the Southeast, specifically in the Georgia area. 770-876-2790 is Zach's phone number. You call him up, he'll hook you up, and tell him that you saw it on our show, and that Matt and Jim tells you to pick up the phone and call Zach. Call him. He's going to help you out getting that either starter home or that forever home. Either one, he's got you hooked, okay? Zach Bobo at ERA Sunshine Realty, 770-876-2790. Thank you to Zach. And back to the show. There's something looming here on the horizon, which falls in the category of sports and television. So going to get you involved here for a second. DAZN, which is one of the largest streaming services of just strictly sports in the world. It's not known much here in the United States because it's pretty much basically combat sports, boxing, MMA, that sort of thing. Unless you're in Canada, where they have the NFL and they have a bunch of other sports which they stream up in Canada. In Europe, they own the NFL rights, the NBA rights, and a number of very important soccer, properties. They're trying to buy a group called Main Street Sports. Okay, now Main Street Sports, for those of you who don't know, used to be the old Diamond Network, which used to be Bally's, and now it's FanDuel. If they can't get that deal done by sometime in January, and things either drag on or they don't get the deal done, Main Street has told the 18 NBA teams that they're involved with. I think it's 9 hockey. The bottom line is they're involved with 28 teams over Major League Baseball, over the NBA, and over the NHL, that they are going out of business. They're shuttering as of January. They're saying they're trying to stay up and finish off the season, which I don't think anybody believes they can do it, because they've already missed payments. Which hang on one second, guys. I'll be right with you.
I will say I would fill the space with what Jim's talking about, but I don't have the specifics like he does. Much better connected than I am.
I'm back. Go ahead. What were you saying?
I was just saying I would fill the airtime that you were gone. I said, but I didn't know. I don't have the information that you have on the subject.
Okay, no problem. Thanks for vamping. I appreciate it. I had an alarm that goes off, so I apologize for that. And I couldn't talk over it. What that means and why the January deadline is important is, if you're an Atlanta Braves fan, if you're a fan of the Los Angeles, Angels, if you are a fan of a number of NBA and NHL teams, if they go south for the winter, which is a possibility, if they can't get this deal done in January, because that's what Main Street is. I mean, DAZN is attempting to buy it. We'll get to that in a moment of what happens if they do. But let's talk for a moment what happens if they don't. And that is, all of the rights would go back to the teams. Well, if you're a Major League Baseball team, and you're sitting there, and in January that you have no television deal beyond what happened last year. First of all, you're not getting the money that they were telling you they were going to pay you, so that's out the door. But now you have to worry about how do I get my games on locally? Mm-hmm. And I think what we're going to see is a hybrid situation where we're going to see baseball games go back to broadcast television along with the streaming component. It's what has happened in the NHL and has happened in the NBA with teams that didn't trust this FanDuel deal. Now, let me also break a very important part to this. And I've seen all kinds of crazy, posts out there. FanDuel is fine. Okay. FanDuel's not going out of business. FanDuel bought the naming rights from Main Street Sports to call it the FanDuel Network. Okay. Mm-hmm. So FanDuel is simply a title sponsor, for lack of a better way of putting it. Well, it's actually the way to put it. They were the title sponsor. So Main Street, if they go belly up, right now, some of the teams have kind of dipped their toe in the water, Atlanta being one of them, where they have 15 games, I believe it's 15, on the Peachtree TV station, which I think is the old Channel 17, right? The old Turner Broadcasting TBS channel. And they've got 15 games there. My guess would be that they would rapidly try to figure out a way to expand that. I know that teams in Phoenix and in I'm talking about the basketball teams now. Phoenix, the Clippers, hockey teams like the Vegas Knights and the Lightning and the Panthers have all done deals with local TV stations in their market where they are airing all of their games. And Utah, by the way, same thing. Utah Jazz and Utah Mammoth, where they're airing the games on broadcast television, all of them on free over-the-air broadcast TV with a streaming package for anybody who wishes to have the streaming package. And also that allows the NBA, the NBA, the NHL, and Major League Baseball to help control the rights to the local broadcasts, which makes their package of total broadcasting, that you buy a season ticket type situation, much better, because now you can actually get your own local TV games in with all the rest of the other stuff. So that's something to keep an eye out for in the next 60 days, because if the zone does not get the deal done, and for some reason it doesn't get done, Main Street Sports is going to shutter, and that will leave a lot of different sports franchises in a bit of a massive situation here. The leagues are all set to pick up the broadcast. So in other words, the leagues would take over, but then there would still be the distribution element, right? How do we get this done? There's no what we call tentpole broadcasting, which would mean that the pregame shows and postgame shows and all that. That would have to be figured out. The broadcasts, the way they've done it in with the Padres, because they did it last year with the Padres and with the Diamondbacks, they kept the broadcast teams in place. So it didn't look any different, is what I'm trying to say, than what you saw if you were watching it on Bally's or on FanDuel. But it was paid for by Major League Baseball. The element here that would be distressing is that if Main Street goes under, then a sizable chunk of cash that if you're a baseball team or a basketball team or a hockey team, whatever rights deal that you had with FanDuel goes away, because they're out of business, and they are not. Originally, when they were Diamond Sports, they filed for Chapter 11 reorganization bankruptcy. They came out of that as Main Street Sports. The understanding is, in all the reporting, to be that way, and my own reporting to be that way, and I wrote it in Sports Talk Florida and Sports Talk New York. The deal is that they're going away. They cannot pay the money. The St. Louis Cardinals did not get their $80 million their payment of $80 million, which was due this month. There's $180 million in NBA money, which I would be stunned if they paid.
Yeah. Jim, I'll hit you with the part that is local to me, at least, I find interesting. First off, just speaking from strictly a crowdsource perspective here, the people in Georgia would not be upset to see the Atlanta Braves off of the FanDuel Sports Network. They are not happy with the way it is covered. They find it incredibly difficult and tedious to be able to watch their home team in their home state. It's frustrated, feels like it might be an understatement based on some of the people that I've talked to about it, really over since they've had it. And that's going back to Bally Sports, really when they moved off of Fox Sports South. So it's been going on for a while now. And another aspect that I think is funny is, and because I don't know the numbers on the other teams, but I know that the Braves have a top 5 payroll in baseball right now, as things stand. And if they lose that check, I think is it going to like necessarily kill the operation? No, but it can't do good things for the for the way the books look for the Liberty Sports Group that owns the Atlanta Braves.
No, and if it looks bad for the Braves, what do you think it's going to look like for the Reds, Kansas City Royals, Tampa Bay Rays?
All those teams that refuse to go to top 5 payrolls in baseball that probably can't afford to lose the funding in the same way that the Braves can. I think I talk about it more, and they have top 5 payroll in baseball now. And obviously we know that this obviously affects more than just baseball, but in baseball in particular, it's interesting in that aspect where it would change maybe Atlanta's competitive landscape going into the future. Obviously you have the collective bargaining agreement that will be renegotiated next year anyways.
Well, to your point, what it's not going to hurt, right? It's not going to hurt the Yankees. They have their own network. Not going to hurt the Red Sox. They have their own network. It's not going to hurt the Phillies because they have their own network.
Yep.
So it's not going to hurt the Mets.
The big markets.
Okay. It's not going to hurt the Dodgers. So, the teams that are spending money, or have the haves of the haves and the have-nots, it's not going to hurt those folks because they're going to get that check because, they have their own deals. Where they screwed up, and this is where I argued vehemently from a consulting standpoint with a number of potential, clients, get the hell out. The Diamond Sports process would have made no sense in the first place because they didn't have the money to cover the amount of money that they had pledged to these teams. There was no way in hell they were going to be able to cover it. So why would you, sign another deal with them, as a number of teams did, thinking that this was going to work out? I mean, that's insanity. It was stupid. They should have gotten ahead of it, as opposed to, instead of being, if they'd have been proactive about it instead of reactive about it, they wouldn't be in this boat. They're not going to get that money. There's no way in hell that, under these new situations, that they're going to get $50 million, right? But they could begin the process of trying to figure out how they can get some money and how they can work with the, not piss off the fans from not having the broadcasts, and maybe even, work to better get at least more people in the building by utilizing these local TV stations as, giving them the opportunity to give you a tremendous amount of promotion, help you with selling tickets, helping with you within the community. So fine, you're not getting revenue from FanDuel, but you're getting more, you're getting revenue and getting people out to the ballparks. So, maybe that would have been a way to go. I know that the Panthers, the Lightning, the Utah Mammoths, I think is what they're called, the Jazz, the Vegas Golden Knights, the Clippers, they're all benefiting from their local TV deals. And they're benefiting at the gate because people now, people now can get there and they know what's going on and they like it. I mean, it's going back to an old model, that's for damn sure. But it's a model that was very effective in the 80s before, the regional sports networks got into the traction.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what was just out of curiosity, what was the big thing that that Braves fans were not crazy about with regards to Bally's and FanDuel?
They just have not been able to access. They've been dealing with a lot of blackouts. They're not able to access the content easily. It's been pretty much, they feel like they've had to jump through a lot of hoops just to be able to watch the hometown team. And this is especially coming from a place where, they were on, every game was on TBS.
Yeah, TBS,
yeah. And then you jump to Fox Sports South, and they were on cable television for as long, really for probably the first 3/4 of my life. somewhere in there. They were on there for a while and easily accessible, and now with Bally and stuff like that. And I don't know if it's directly related, but it is something that happened in the shift when they went away from Fox Sports now to, well, what was Bally now is FanDuel.
Yeah, I know that Chip Carey moved from over there to St. Louis during the time. And it was kind of an awkward situation with him and what was going on. There was a number of contracts of broadcasters everybody loved was not being picked up. And they were going with much, and I'm not, look, I am not going to sit here and criticize, broadcasters, whoever they may be. If they get that job, then good on them, and I'm happy for them. But if you're cutting at that level, I mean, these are the people that, as a producer director, you want good talent to be able to articulate what you're trying to put on the field. And if they're going on the cheap, which they did, they went down production trucks wise, they went down, the quality of the production value, both on camera and on in the booth, suffered when they went away from Fox. They tried to do it on the cheap, and you just can't do that. People expect a broadcast quality, a network quality broadcast on local television. They're used to it, and they don't want to see or don't want excuses as to why you can't provide it to them.
No, absolutely not. So it's something that'll be interesting to watch going forward, because it doesn't necessarily wouldn't impact the Braves as much, because they obviously have the cash to be able to spend in that fashion.
Yeah.
But all these small market teams and the teams in the other leagues, but specifically in baseball, the small market teams that already don't spend, seeing a hit in their revenue and the money coming in, could greatly impact, really the ownership's way of thinking in terms of spending.
Well, and to put a button in this, first of all, root for DAZN. That would be my first situation. But because they have the money to make this thing work, they're not going to be able to pay the money. They'll pay some money, but they won't be able to pay the money that was put up there by that was contractually put up there by Main Street. But excuse me. If they do go south, my concern from being a baseball fan, is we all are used to watching, our favorite team, and if we can't get a hold of our favorite team because they're trying to, patch together some sort of, network while on the fly, that's not going to be easy. And if I get a phone call in January from, a baseball team saying we need to be on television in March, that gives me absolutely no time. I'm scheduled. So what am I going to do? I got to scramble to figure out how to make it work. And that's never a good thing. And but Major League Baseball, the NBA, the NHL, they're all ready for it. They're actually assuming it's going to happen. And it's not the fault of DAZN, because DAZN is working on trying to put together a package. So this self-imposed deadline of January, and maybe they slide it to February, is only because rights fees begin again in 2026. So, that nut of $180 million to the NBA teams is due in 2026 by the end of the year. of 2026, or the end of the season, I'm sorry, of 2026. So, if they're not going to pay it, which is very quite possible, then there's no reason for them to continue, and they may just end in the middle of the season.
Yeah.
So, I can tell you that I know for a fact that the NBA and the NHL are prepared to take over the local rights to try to make it as seamless as possible, at least till the end of the year. Is it an ideal situation? Not by any stretch of imagination, but it is something to look out for. And as I said, if you're a Red Sox fan, a Yankees fan, a Mets fan, a Phillies fan, a Dodgers fan, you're okay for what's going on. But everybody else has got issues. I'm not quite sure how the Pirates Penguins deal would be with NESN, but it's with NESN, so I'm assuming that would not be an issue. So,
interesting note on the Penguins. The Fenway Sports Group did sell their main ownership stake in the Penguins. I'm curious to see. Obviously, not now, but when rights negotiations come back up, I would be curious to see if NESN continues to carry the Penguins as well.
Well, they owe them for this year, so that part is going to be taken care of. But beyond that, yeah, I mean, maybe they don't. Maybe they try to get the zone to take over. Maybe this is where Amazon has gotten a little bit of a foothold here. Amazon spent some money with the buying a stake in the Yes Network, and that worked out for them. And Major League Baseball has worked with Amazon to secure some streaming rights, the direct-to-consumer stuff. So we'll keep you posted on all of that as it happens. But just wanted to let y'all know that follow us on Sports Talk Florida, Georgia, New York, and around the rest of the country, and we'll keep you posted on it. I've got two different stories, one today and one tomorrow, coming up on how these things, what DAZN would do if they had got it, and B, what happens if the whole thing goes down. DAZN, by the way, would probably switch to a very streaming centric deal, which frankly, is a direct-to-consumer process and might be easier for everybody when you think about it. But we'll see how that goes. And maybe they also would strike some local TV deals as well, so you see some over-the-air broadcast games. I don't know. I don't think they have a firm concept of where they're going to go with it, because they're a totally streaming service. They have no infrastructure of any sort with regard to selling sub licenses to TV stations or networks. So they're straight up a streaming service. So that's where we are with that. Covered a lot of interesting stuff today, which is kind of cool. Tomorrow will be the day before Christmas, and we will look at some of the things that maybe Matt and I would like to see happen in sports, football and basketball. No, football, say football and college football, as our Christmas hopes for then. And then, of course, we won't be back until after the Christmas holiday. So anyway, everybody, have a great day. Thanks so much, and we'll talk to you tomorrow. I promise we will.